Welcome back. You're watching Siasa Fiesta, and this is the tail end of the program right now. You may remember the reggae was actually the song "Nobody Can Stop Reggae." Nobody can stop reggae. That became our public lexicon, or a public lyric, so to speak, if we may hack back to 2018, 2019 there, 2020. This was all about the BBI. And reggae yanukia. This is what is on the front page of Taifa Leo. Harakati za wajuzi wa sheria kutaka mageuzi ya katiba na agenda ya mazungumzo zaelekea kwenye kura ya maamuzi. The question is, are we in a constitutional moment, especially regarding the bipartisan talks that will be broaching some of the salient issues that are there? Are they bound to go the referendum way? Yesterday we had a discussion here, and some of the issues that was raised, especially for the office of the opposition leader, that seems to change the structure of the plenary. Does that really call for a referendum or not? There is the Political Parties Amendment Act 2011, but that is being steamrolled by John Wamboka, Member of Parliament of Bumula, who seeks to predicate that particular, of course, office into law. But the question is, will it go the amendment way of the Constitution, or this really calls for a referendum? Because from the estimations that we had here, it is changing the basic structure of the Constitution that really calls for amendment. And this is where I want to just pick the brains of our legal, or our lawyers and advocates here this morning, to make it limpid for Kenyans, so that we know, as much as we're having these particular discussions at the Bomas of Kenya with the bipartisan talks, maybe the specter that we'll be facing as well will be heading to a referendum, or for a referendum. Danson Mungatana, having the office of the opposition, first of all, from the Political Parties Amendment Act 2011 that I've mentioned is being sponsored by Jack Wamboka, does it really call for a referendum, or is just a political amendment act that can enshrine that particular office?
Unless the person who is being created there is another small office that has no consequence, such that it's a small act of parliament that is created, and then another government that comes can abolish it.
Yeah, because the suggestion was all the reason that was being advanced here. Yeah. This is not diametrically different from what we have as a minority leader.
No, it is.
It is still the same.
Let me give you the historical bit of it. I was in Naivasha under the select committee for parliamentary select committee to negotiate the constitution. And when we were there, the whole issue was, should we have a parliamentary system or should we have a presidential system? So when that deal was cut, that we are going to do parliamentary system, the rest of the things were forgotten. I remember, and Hansard will bear me out, that it is me who actually brought the offices within parliament, the offices in parliament, because they had only put the speaker there. So I then suggested, no, we need a minority leader, we need a majority leader within the parliament, with both the Senate and in the National Assembly. So those offices are entrenched in the Constitution. What we didn't do, and I think it's a big mistake, we didn't entrench the office of the leader of opposition in the Constitution. And any other way of doing it is not going to fly. It has to be entrenched within the Constitution. Why? Because and I have advocated this for a long time, that we should have a leadership that is also oversighted by the opposition. And this is loyal opposition. Not loyal to the government, but loyal to the Republic of Kenya. Just like it is in the UK, you have a loyal opposition, loyal to His Majesty the King. But the government is also loyal to His Majesty the King. So you have two sides that are balancing, okay? So if you are going to have an office of the leader of opposition, it has, the understanding is that it has to have a constitutional entrenchment. And for it to have a constitutional entrenchment, in fact, I have argued before that the person who comes number 2 to the president should be having a seat at the National Assembly, and his running mate or her running mate should be having a seat at the Senate. Why? Because the assumption we made was that at that time that person would be leading the troops from within the National Assembly, and the other one will be leading the troops from within the Senate. Now, if that be the case, the composition of the National Assembly is defined by the Constitution, Article 97. It says you need 290 elected members of parliament, and then you have 47 elected county elected MPs who are the women reps, and then you have 12 nominated, and then you have the speaker as the ex officio. That is the National Assembly. Article 98 also defines the membership of the Senate. You have 47 elected senators. You have 16 nominated senators to balance the gender. And then you have one other person who is the ex-official, the speaker. So how do you bring in the leader of opposition? How do you bring in the leader of opposition, either in the Senate, either in the National Assembly, without changing the structure of government, the structure of parliament? Now, to change that structure, you need a constitutional amendment. So any other way of doing it is not neat. And I see Kenyans...
a constitutional amendment
through
the statutory amendment, or through
a constitutional amendment has its process. It is not a statute. A statute as proposed by this gentleman, even if it is passed, any judge, Constitutional Court will strike it out. So it's a waste of time.
It's a waste of time.
We should not go
and it is before JLAC right now.
We should not go that. Whatever JLAC says, I can guarantee you, any judge sitting as a Constitutional Court will strike it out. You cannot change the composition of the House
using a statutory.
A statute.
That's what I'm asking then.
Yeah.
It also beckons the question on what sort of legislators we have in the House who they have a constitution, yet they can come up with such a bill. That's what I wanted to get understanding. Yet we have very variegated views from the legislators, even yesterday, that we don't necessarily have to change the structure of government, through a referendum. It can be through that particular legislation. So that one really took me back a bit, so I wanted to get clarification. So you need to go for a referendum.
A constitutional. In fact, how the office of the president is a constitutional office. Indeed. And the person who is supposed to check or oversight this person should be also a constitutional office. It cannot be created by statute.
By statute, okay, yeah. Good.
Yes. Well, unfortunately, that passed then, and we had to make a decision as to what system of government we are going to have. We have a parliamentary system, and you see, you can also have a presidential system. Now, under the current constitution, Article 255, that is the heading there under Chapter 16, is amendment of the Constitution. And it gives the situations on which you can amend the Constitution, all the way 255, 256, 257. So there are those amendments which can be done in the House, the ones which do not change the structure of governance. And there are those amendments which must go to the people. And each one has a process, what you must do if you are going to the people. And that's why BBI was taken to court and was found not to have followed the popular initiative of the people, that it had been moved by the executive. And the more the current government tries to change, the more it is going back to what it opposed. So with this bipartisan talks, you can see they are preparing for another BBI. And if you look at all those issues which have been raised, they were all in the BBI, which the current government then opposed. So the more we try to change, the more we go back to the same problem. Now, you have leader of majority and leader of minority in the House. We should have had a situation whereby the leader of opposition led the opposition from the House. We did not come up with a system that if you are a presidential candidate, then and you don't make it, probably you should automatically be nominated and automatically become the leader of opposition in the House. And your running mate, as Honorable Mungatana says, becomes the other leader or automatically nominated to Senate. Probably that's what we'll be looking at. But all these propositions which have been made by the government of creating an office of the opposition. First of all, in my analysis, I think President Ruto is only doing this for himself in the event he finds himself in opposition after the next election. I don't think he's doing it for prosperity. I don't think it is a genuine amendment or genuine concern. The opposition should be left to organize itself. It's not the government which should be saying, we are even going to have an office for you, we are going to furnish it, we'll give you money to run the opposition. From what budget?
You should raise eyebrows.
You know, it's very suspect. It is very suspect. You know, it is the same description of, you know, a wolf in the clothing of a sheep. And it's totally in bad faith. I think the office of opposition should clearly be brought by the people. It should be, you know, through a referendum. It cannot happen through another way. And that takes us back straight away to BBI. What we didn't want then is what is coming back. And you cannot create such an office unless you also change the whole structure of government. You have to really reorganize the whole thing. It cannot be done by bills. Unfortunately, you know, many members are new in parliament. They are very excited about bringing law. You saw Madamano law.
Right.
You come up with a law which is obviously unconstitutional. And by the way, before that bill gets to the floor of the House, it has to get advice from the Attorney General's office. It has to get advice from the technical people in Parliament. We have quite a number of lawyers employed by Parliament to check whether the law has been followed, whether the Constitution has been followed. But so these are new members very excited to bring bills, which they only announce, you know, even before they write the bill. And you never see it on the floor of the House. Those bills have already been, you know, mentioned and died at the same time. They will never see the light of the day.
I wanted to just say...
No, let me just ask. He's raising a very important issue. Because let me comment.
This issue of saying that President is acting in bad faith, that he's preparing to be in the opposition, I think not.
Maybe in bad faith is a misplaced word, but isn't he also?
No, let me just say.
Because this is a question I raised yesterday as well. Is it for his own interest?
No, it cannot be. Because
after his tenure, then he's the official opposition leader.
No, let me tell you, as I see it, and as many people, you know, predict from where we are going to win the State House in the next general election. I'm confident because I know the vibe, and I'm talking from my county position. It's going to go the other side. I can tell you that because I know what is happening on the ground. In my county, there's a shift. And I can't speak for Makueni or any other county, but I can tell you the shift is towards William Ruto in the next election. So I don't think that should be the case. We shouldn't argue that way.
So is the shift to what metrics are you using? Is there any scientific metrics?
Election.
Or this is just sentiments?
No,
you should be very categorical. If this is your own sentiments and you want to sway the public's views about it,
let me answer your question.
It should be very scientific. If there is a shift, is there any empirical evidence?
No, let me answer the question, Dibal. When you are a person who is on the ground all the time, you can tell the vibe and the pulse of your county. You can tell the pulse. If you are an MP, you can tell the pulse of your constituency. If you are an MCA, you can tell the pulse. It's not scientific, I agree. We haven't carried out a research, but I can tell you where the leadership is going. Anyway, that is as we stand now. But I want to make a point.
This cannot go without challenge.
Let me make a point.
Challenge. Okay, challenge.
Please allow me the challenge, then he makes a point.
Let me make a point here first.
Can you make a challenge before you go with the point?
Let me finish this point and then he can take the challenge. I wanted to say this. The issue of opposition, creating the office of the opposition, is so important that we should not trivialize it. That maybe it's about Ruto planning for himself, maybe there is bad faith, or we are creating a situation where the country, the current president wants to control the I think we need to take a step back and ask ourselves, do we need a loyal opposition? Yes. Loyal to the Republic of Kenya? Yes, I think the answer is yes. And for me, I think to the extent that the president is only talking about the national government, that statement should not go without challenge. I think we need to also push it all the way to the second level of government. Governors as well need to have the person who is a runner-up also sitting within the county assembly and doing proper oversight. And my own take is that the budget should not increase. These people, if it is the official opposition at the national level, the office of the president has a budget. They can cut some of it and fund the opposition leader. The governors, the office of the governor has a budget. They can cut some of it to fund this. And it should be by law, so that we don't need to create, you don't need to spend more money. How much does it cost to host one person with his staff, you know? So from where I sit, we need to actually divorce ourselves from all these other theories and, the negative vibe, and look at this thing. Do we need it? Yes. At the national, yes. And do we need it at the county? Yes, we do. Why? Because at the national level, the only person who can speak to you as a peer is the person who has run against you, you know? Even a classmate of mine would speak to me in a way that nobody else can, you know, because he was my classmate. We played together football and so on. We played together basketball, we swam together, we did our things when we were young. He can talk to me at that level. So the person who runs against the president is the only person who can really talk to him face to face. You can't say Opio and I, who won just one constituency, can actually oversight the office of the president. Same in the governor's position. The person who came number 2 can talk face to face, eyebrow to eyebrow on the sitting governor. Unlike the MCA, who is the leader of minority in the house, in the assembly, that leader of minority in the assembly really was elected from a small area. The electoral area for the governor was much bigger. And he can fear or respect, or whatever you call it, his peer. Because his peer is the one who came number 2 to him. He can be told off by his peer, but he can't be told off by the minority leader who was elected from a small area. So my argument is, we really need, but we need to go through the proper process.
The proper process, which is the referendum. So you wanted to challenge his sentiment there. Then I pose a question on the funding itself, because funding will be the biggest issue as it were.
You see, the proposal of Honorable Mungatana is that the presidential budget funds the opposition. That's already a bottom-up opposition. It is an opposition. Yeah. It's an opposition which doesn't exist, and that's why I'm saying there is dishonesty in this. What President Ruto and his deputy Rigathi were expected to do under the Constitution, first and foremost, is to promote peace and unity after elections, and you have to have a method of bringing the country together and making sure that the country works together and accept challenge from the opposition. That is not what has happened. You see, we role modeled our constitution to the American, system. And that system, once you lose as a president, you don't lead opposition, from out there. And this is what he wants to cure, but in an unconstitutional manner. What Ruto and Rigathi are doing, they are building their house on quicksand. They have buried their head in the sand also. They have lost Kenyans. They have increased the cost of living. And even before they do the bipartisan talks, during the last Maandamano, they have executed people. There has been police brutality. Crimes, international crimes against humanity has been committed and covered, and no one is discussing. And I can assure you, because I visited one of the parents and we saw the rest on television, who lost children in this. Their cry, the cry of those mothers have reached to the high heavens. And God in heaven will listen. And when the rains come again, because Ruto's house and the Rigathi is on quicksand, it will be washed away, and it is correct this in a better way. There is no way this government can survive further. It's no longer the government of the people. It's no longer the government of the Asra. They have lost the people. The people, they are sitting on ivory towers. They have lost the people. They have not listened to Kenyans.
What my learned friend is saying is just propaganda. He's keep on repeating things that are not there. The cries of these people have gone high to heaven, and God is going to answer their cries.
By removing Ruto and Rigathi from
dealing
power.
with the people who led Maandamanos, illegal meetings, caused the chaos, brought chaos in this country.
The chaos was caused by police.
The chaos was caused by the Mandamano people who are carrying stones and even
as I mentioned,
them.
I think we're past that junction. We don't need to
displaying them
back
on the television.
All that has brought us to the table,
making it like a badge of honor.
Okay,
so
I didn't take a short break.
God is going to deal with these people, not our government. Our government is standing.
God is going to deal with your government.
No, our government is standing on very strong, solid ground, and we have policies and we are executing. And because we are succeeding, you people want to distract us. That's the thing.
All right, we want to see, especially on the funding bit, because even if we'll have this particular office again that is being funded by the exchequer, so to speak, at the end of the day, where is the independence of this office if it's enshrined in the constitution? Because no questions will be raised. I think we had a case in Senegal where their own Sonko or the opposition, one day we have the president waking up and say we are obliterating the office of the opposition. So are we setting up ourselves to a place where, in a country where the president, going by also his broadside declarations that we can see on the ground as well, wake up one day and say, oh no, we are snuffing out that, or we are not funding that particular office with the requisite monies that it needs to run smoothly. That's the end of the day. Will they have the independence and the wiggle room they need as an opposition? Will we have the same vibrant opposition leader as we have today, also if he will be in the chambers of the House at the end of the day? That's the question we need to broach. We'll take a short break. When we circle back, we'll look at